What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. First, I'd like to say we're about 110 subscribers away from 50,000. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. I still remember when I was still living in San Diego, and I was at the car wash. And I asked, hey, man, can you guys get me to 50 subs by whatever date? And, man, you guys came through and I bounced up to like 1,000. It was a trip. But anyways, let's get to today's video. I did a video yesterday on Pelican Bay. I usually don't like to do the same thing, even though it's not the same thing, the same prison or the same kind of same prison, back to back. But it's a Saturday. Usually Saturdays are slow days. Today is the Saturday before the Super Bowl, so people are getting ready for that. Puro party, I get it. But I decided I wanted to do this video on Pelican Bay to give people, a little bit more insight on how things worked in there. And you guys got to remember, I'm talking about times where before the legends were released from the shoe. Now they're all on the yard, so things are different. But this was back when they were slammed down. Different era, different time. This was back when, in order to make a name for yourself and meet those men, learn from them, gain their trust and their respect, you had to put in work. This is back when before, we're even gonna go before the cell phone thing. People meet people now through a cell phone. That's not the same as performing under the gun, showing your obligation through your work rather than your mouthpiece. And so let's get into it. Pelican Bay. Pelican Bay had an effect on every prison on a regular basis. And that's because now, during my my prison term, I was in the Pelican Bay shoe on 4 different occasions, right? And I was released. The first time I was released from the shoe, I went down to Tehachapi. I did a story about that. I whacked a dude in R&R, went back, went through 4-month layover in Corcoran shoe, and then went back to the Bay. Got out, went to B Yard. So two of the 4 times when I was released from the shoe, I went to other prisons. One was Tehachapi, the other one was New Folsom. I can speak from my experience, and anyone who was around during that time can attest to what I'm about to say. So back then, you would have, if you got released from the shoot to Pelican Bay's main lines A or B, it was not really looked at the same as when you get released to a place like High Desert or Salinas Valley or New Folsom. I'm gonna tell you why. Whenever somebody left Pelican Bay shoe and they arrived in any other prison other than Pelican Bay, those that were in the game, in the mix, were always, unless the guy that was coming was part of their same crew, they were always going to be a little uneasy when somebody came down from the Bay. Dudes that came down from the Bay, they had just left the Legends. Remember, the Legends were on the main line back then. And for those that are new to the channel, when I refer to Legends, I'm talking about the members of the Big 4 organizations within the California Department of Corrections. And Usually if somebody was into politicking and just came out of the shoe, Pelican Bay, those were the guys that really, I don't want to say instilled fear, but worry. You know, a guy, you know, before the Mesa system, when it was a llavero, the llavero doesn't know why you're coming down. He knows you had to come, but he doesn't know what is your agenda. What did the legends ask that man to do when he arrived? And so there was always a little bit of mistrust. And there was always that, you know, some guys were stupid. You know, guys that were in charge, they would peacock, you know, chest out. And those are the dummies that usually got in a wreck quick. They weren't using this. They were using this down here. They're using their heart rather than the damn brain. I told the story and of when I got to New Folsom the second time when I got out of the shoe. And you can go to check out the channel called Free Robert's World. And he talked about when I got there because he was already there. And this is a common occurrence. When you leave Pelican Bay Shoe, there's two things. You don't even have to say you came from the Bay. Everybody, by looking at you, there's two things that are a dead giveaway back then. One is the color of your skin. Pelican Bay has no windows. In the shoe, there's no windows. You don't get sunshine. There's a little chance now and then you can get a little bit of sun when you're on the yard, but the yard is a concrete box, basically the size of 2 cells. It has steel mesh on the top. On top of that, there's plexiglass, but there's a camera, and around the camera, there's a cutout. Sometimes sun would come through there, but you're not enough for you to get a tan, right? So that was one of the things. Your skin would be, you're not even pale. You're almost greenish yellow. Your veins, people can see your veins a lot of time. So that was one of the things. Another thing was a lot of guys in the shoe, for whatever reason, the shoe messes our eyesight up. Being in the hole, being in the shoe, it does something to your eyes. And so a lot of us wore these thick black glasses, almost like Buddy Holly glasses. You look at Buddy Holly and you see his glasses. They were similar to that. And so those are two ways that people knew just by looking, like, oh, that's one of the dudes that just got here. Because when somebody comes down from the Bay, or a couple people, there's going to be whispering like wildfire. Oh, fuck, some dudes came from the Bay. That was the effect that Pelican Bay had on every yard somebody landed on that came from the shoe. Everybody that's in the mix back then that came down from the shoe to any yard, they definitely had an agenda. They had a game plan. And that's what the guys in charge on the yard would know. They didn't have to ask, they know. Vato has an agenda, he has a game plan. Am I part of it, or am I in the way? That's what they always worried about. I remember getting to New Folsom, and the guys there were running a really horrible program. My agenda when I got there was not to take over. Didn't even want that headache. My agenda was to establish a healthy business environment and generate income. Let these dudes do whatever they got to do. But through their stupidity, their lack of knowledge, and inability to follow basic instructions, myself and others were forced to step in and establish that environment that way, right? And that's what we did. But you would have other dudes, man, that were tyrants that didn't understand. Like I've said a bunch of times, man, whatever little authority that I had, I was still equal with everybody. And I knew that. I just had more responsibilities. Other guys abuse that authority that they get. forgetting that they're equal with everyone else, and then getting touched up in the process. Prison is a cold place, man. I try to tell you guys, I try to let you guys in on that with every video. I think the next video I may do, and that's up to you guys, and I'll probably, if I do it, I'll do it on Monday. And you guys let me know in the comments. Put a 1 if you want it. Put a 2 if you don't. This one is the Pelican Bay effect. The next video I'm thinking of doing, the next effect video we'll say, will be the high desert effect. I was never in high desert, but high desert had an impact on how certain things were done. Just like Pelican Bay. Pelican Bay changed the way hits went down in the California Department of Corrections. You know, there was a time where they would say when you move on somebody, you take them to the dirt and you don't get off of them. And then it kind of veered away from it for a little while. And it was whack him. And if you can get away with it, get away with it. But make sure he's hit good enough where he ain't going to be able to stay on the yard. And so there was a period where that was the thing. You'd see dudes get the dog shit whacked out of them and dudes would walk away. And like when I was in New Folsom, there was only, I believe, one time a pegada happened where a guy got busted. And that was because the victim, the target, snitched. I just talked about that in a video, I think last week. But what happened was the effect of Pelican Bay on the entire system as far as the level 4s, especially with 180s, but I believe all the level 4s, was this. Pelican Bay, before they run yard, they turn on all the cameras. See, most joints in the CDC don't have cameras monitoring the whole entire yard. In Pelican Bay, there's 2 cameras on every building. And then there's the main camera that's controlled by the ISU underneath the central tower. That one moves. They can move it and they can zoom in. The rest of the cameras are set to record a certain portion of the yard. Anytime anything happens on that yard, somebody gets killed, somebody gets hit, when they get the yard down, you'll hear the sergeant say the same thing. He'll get on his mic and he'll say, check the tapes. Within a few minutes, you'll hear 7 block Sarge or 4 block Sarge. But whatever tower, whatever building caught it on camera, they'll call it out. Sergeant will go straight to that building and they have a monitor and they'll watch, they'll look and they'll see exactly who the fuck it is. Come back out, walk straight to those dudes, stand up and cuff up. So nobody was getting away with anything in the Bay. So every action causes a reaction. Then it became move on him like you're trying to kill him. Fuck a check. If he lives, if God wants him to live, he'll live. But don't even bother trying to get away. And so it became back to the taking of the dirt, but this time there's going to be minimum 2 dudes on him, depending on what it is, but there's always going to be 2. And that was in reaction to the CDC. Dudes were like, if I'm going to catch another life sentence or go to death row for it, I'm not going to stop. For what? And those guys would go to the SHU. They would get out of the SHU, get kicked out to one of these other prisons. That's a SHU kickout yard. They go to New Folsom, Salinas Valley, wherever, right? And they're usually going to have some juice because they sat back there with the legends. They're going to get wherever they go. And now they're going to make sure that whoever gets hit there gets hit Pelican Bay style. The fuck? Don't try to get away. Take them to the dirt, both of you. Make the Judas pull you off of them. You'd hear that sometimes. Make them shoot you off or pull you off. That was another effect of Pelican Bay. I remember in New Folsom when I got there and we were changing, we had to, you know, like I said earlier, we had to change what was in place. And because of the reputation that C facility in New Folsom had prior to us arriving, I made it a point. We agreed that every pegada that happened, every hit that went down on that yard needed to be ugly. People needed to know things have changed here. Different people are here, right? And I remember at first we were trying to be fair. We sent two, one with a knife, one without. The one without would come back within 30 days, usually, right? And then next thing you know, the administration decided to change the program. Charge both of them with attempted murder, they said, right? Every action has a reaction. So we said, okay, we know what to do. Put a knife in both of their hands in. Now it got even uglier. The administration made a move, we made a move. It's chess. It's chess with men's lives on. That's the ugliness of prison. This is the effect that Pelican Bay had on other prisons, on people's mindsets. You got to remember, in there you have people jockeying for position, and they do it through manipulation and extreme violence. Violence is the only thing that people really understand in there. You know, there's people that used to say in there, you can't have peace without war, and they would always want war. I remember dealing with homies where I'd have to they were like fucking rabid dogs, man. They always wanted to war with the blacks. And I would tell them, hey, Holmes, check this out. If you don't calm down, homie, you want to put in work, I'll send you on something. But what you're talking about doing is bad for business. We ain't making no money doing that. They're not doing nothing to us. Why are you rolling our basketball over to their area and trying to act like you're going to walk over there and get it? You know what I mean? But anyways, I'm rambling. Happy Saturday. Everybody, please be safe tomorrow during the Super Bowl. Everybody be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out.